You ever have some plans that you're putting together for a thing that you want to do and some outside force just completely disrupts it and says, nope, nope, you're not doing it? That happens to pilots a lot, and we're going to talk about that today. Ever wonder how pilots decide if they're going to fly or drive somewhere? In my case, the airplane tells me. We're planning this ski trip to Purgatory, Durango, Colorado area. And I think what happened, we started talking about doing this trip. And my plane goes, what's that? You got some vacation money, Brian? I'll take it. So how it works in my family is I hate the beach and Aaron hates skiing. So this year is a skiing year. Next year I'm going to have to go dodge jellyfish and sit in the sand. It's gross, but so it's a skiing year. Additionally, we're trying to get the kids to hit every state or as many states as possible before they leave. So the kids haven't been to Colorado. So we said, you know what? Normally we ski in New Mexico. Let's go north. Let's go to Colorado this year and we'll go do a ski trip. Said, okay. Decided I would start scoping out airports, and there's 3 or 4 in the area. So I started researching who's got cars, what's this going to look like. And as soon as I started planning the trip, my plane started doing this. It's like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. The plane knows we're going, and it doesn't want to, and so this is what it does. We did a lot of analysis. Basically what's happening is the engine is surging at lower RPMs. At high RPMs, it's fine. So about 2 weeks ago, I was flying and I was coming into my airport to land, and I heard like a thump sound, like a popping sound. I now know it was a backfire, but at the time I thought, honestly, we have some trees at the south end of our field, and I thought, man, I'm not a sloppy pilot, but maybe I'm too low and maybe I hit a tree branch or something. It just felt like a thunk. The next day I flew again, the same thing happened, and I said, you know what, that's weird. So I started flying some patterns, and I noticed when I was reducing power, I was getting these backfire sounds. Sent the carburetor off to be overhauled. The last time this carburetor was overhauled was in the 1900s, so it's time, even if it's not the problem. So I sent the carburetor off. So I started looking for carburetor shops, and it turns out like the best of the best carburetor overhaul shops is only 20-minute drive from here. So I dropped it off with those guys, and I think it was about 3 weeks. And I got back just this thing, showroom, beautiful, brand new carburetor. It's the prettiest thing on the plane right now. It's a shame to put it on my dirty, greasy engine. So I got the carburetor on. Now I'm back to planning the trip. I haven't test flown it yet. Weather's kind of crappy, but once the weather clears up, we'll test flight. And then hopefully we will cut to a trip with my family flying to Durango, Colorado. So I think tomorrow I can go test fly the plane and see if that works out. And then we're off to Colorado. All right, apparently now my plane doesn't want my kids to be able to go to college. The carburetor's on. I went out and test run it. Everything was amazing. I tried all different combinations of prop and mixture and throttle and everything on the ground, high speed up and down the runway, and then did a lap around the pattern. No backfires. It performed beautifully. Taxiing back to the hangar, I went to turn right, and in airplanes we steer with our feet, and my right foot went to the floor, and there was a ka-chunk sound. Panic set in. I shut the plane down, and my first thought was, I've broken the connection between the pedals and the rudder. I have no idea. I just heard a noise, and now these are just flopping. So I open the door, and I'm looking out, and I can see the rudder's working, but there's just zero resistance at all. And then I go, you know what? The resistance when you're on the ground comes from the friction between the wheel and the ground. That's what I've broken. Sure enough, I open the cowl to look inside, and there's a steering arm on top of the nose wheel. These 2 things push it so that you can steer on the ground, and there's 3 bolts that hold that in, and they sheared completely off. So I do a little bit of research and find out this is a known thing with Piper Comanches. There's a service letter, service bulletin, whatever they call it, about putting high-strength bolts in there. I looked. I don't have those bolts, so I've ordered the bolts, and I'm turning a $9 problem into a much more expensive problem. The landing gear on the Comanches needs a little bit of TLC, and mine particularly anyway. And so I said, as long as we're going to have this thing up on jacks, as long as I'm clearly not flying to Colorado now, let's go ahead and take the whole thing off, and we'll get the stuff done to it that needs to be done. So it's getting cleaned up. It's getting all new hardware. I'm actually sending it off to have it painted. So the good news is we're still going to Colorado, but we're going to go really, really slow. I think we're looking at about a 15-hour drive. But we got some cool things scheduled. We're going to ski in Purgatory, which I've never done. I think that's going to be awesome. We're going to ride a dog sled. there's an excursion out there where you hop on a dog sled and you go through the forest and over these frozen lakes and all kinds of cool stuff. Texan on a dog sled, I don't know how often that happens. I can't imagine I would ever be on a dog sled. We're going to find out what that's like. And then one of my nieces decided she was going to join us on this trip. So, the more the merrier kind of thing. We're going to have a slightly larger group. I don't know. Let's go to Colorado slowly in a car. All right, so we are road tripping. Aaron is driving. My niece Elizabeth is snacking. Brooke and Jack are snacking. And we only have 12 short hours to get to Silverton, Colorado, where we're going to ski and do other fun things in the snow. And I've already decided it's too cold and we're only in Wichita Falls, Texas. But here we go. We made it. We got this cool cabin.
This is the building Lola's place.
Building what? This is awesome.
This is called Lola's place.
The first portion of the trip, we stayed in Silverton, Colorado. Silverton's about 20 miles north of Purgatory. It's a small snow globe of a town with lots of little shops and some really good food. It looks like towns that you would see in old Western movies. We stayed in an area that was once the red light district, so a lot of the businesses maintained a little bit of that theme. It's a pretty small town, so if you're used to being busy, a couple of days here may be all that you need. We stayed 2 nights while we were skiing in Purgatory, and the 5 of us have varying levels of ski skills, so once we got to the mountain, we all went our different ways. Yeah, I thought I was going to be really smart and air tag my whole family and send everyone on their way, and I'd be able to track them in 365. There's like 13,000 feet up here. There's no signal. There's no nothing. You're not tracking anything. But so my son's off doing a snowboarding lesson. My wife's on a bunny slope. My daughter and niece are somewhere around here doing these big runs. We're doing a lot of greens and blues today. I don't really do the blacks. But pretty cool mountain. As an adult, my ski experience has been limited to popular mountains in New Mexico, like Angel Fire, Santa Fe, and Red River, mostly due to proximity. I always joke that in New Mexico, when you're on the ski lift with a stranger, you just ask them, what part of Texas are you from? Purgatory, however, I think might be my new favorite resort. The runs are significantly longer, with more options branching out as you make your way down. I tend to stick to greens and blues because I'm not an athlete and I have no desire to be. I just want to have fun. There's a couple of cool restaurants at the top of the mountain, and it's always fun to eat while overlooking the landscape. I also really like this year that we're all at an age where we can kind of split up, and I'm not slowing the kids down, and others don't feel pressure to do runs that make them uncomfortable. All right, after hours and hours of trying and missing connections, I finally found my family. My daughter and my niece are skiing here. Has anybody had a major wipeout yet?
4. I just got my. When we were waiting for you at the top, I went like this.
Yeah.
I was just standing there and I tried to shift forwards and I fell on my back, but I haven't wiped out.
I haven't fallen yet, so I'm probably going to now. But we're going to the top of the mountain. The sun's going down, so it's getting a little crunchy. My son and my niece and I skied Purgatory 2 days. Erin and my daughter opted to explore the town on day 2. Day 3 is one of those things you just know you're going to remember for a lifetime. As a man who loves animals and lives in Texas, my first reaction was to feel awful for these dogs. We were told the dogs love this though, and their optimal performing temperature is actually minus 10 degrees. It became pretty obvious once the leads were getting attached that the dogs were excited to get going. This is the view from my son's camera. His reaction once they get going is priceless.
Ready?
Yeah! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Whoa! Whoa!
Scoot to the right. So scoot your butt.
Once you're on the sled and going, the dogs are guided by voice commands and the driver has a brake. So basically, the dogs handle the turning and the driver manages the speed. At a couple of points, it would get pretty steep going uphill, and I would hop off and run alongside the sled. And before I even got a chance to ask if they've ever rolled over in one of these things, well... we got Brooke driving the sled.
Me driving is very much so an overestimate.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I feel like a passenger back there, but it's fun. You really got to be able to balance, though. From a distance, this looks smooth and fun, but to put it in perspective, if you've ever driven a snowmobile or ridden a horse, it's got that same level of awkwardness that you didn't see coming. You have a constant sense that you could fall off at any moment. You're essentially balancing on a single sled rail and holding yourself up with your hands.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, downhill is like downhill.
Man, I got pine needles in my mouth. Ah, good dogs. Up, up, up.
So do you arrange them by any sort of physical traits, or is it just...
It is nice to have really strong, hard pulling dogs in the back.
Okay.
But it's really kind of a brains to bronze kind of deal. So you need to have smart dogs up front in that leader position. The one behind the leaders, we call that swing.
Okay.
And then up there is actually like an A-game leader.
I do want to give a shout out to their photographer. This dude was scrambling all over the trails in snow, sometimes knee deep, just to get some pretty cool shots that we otherwise wouldn't have gotten. I'm rarely one to buy the photos at the end of an excursion, but these were really incredible. He did a great job. We're out here. We just did the dog sled run. I'm here with John. And John, where are you from? You sound like you're from Texas too.
Oh, aye, that's right. Real Texas, broad accent.
West Texas, you can tell. He's a photographer. What's the name of your website?
Grumpy Highlander.
Grumpy Highlander. The photos are fantastic. You have a website, people? If they
I do. It's grumpyhighlander.com and Grumpy Highlander on Instagram.
All right, so go look up the Grumpy Highlander. I'll put links in the description and I'll put a link to the website and stuff. The photos are absolutely incredible. We bought all of them. I'll show a few here on the screen, but really, really appreciate it. Awesome job. This was
Right,
so
no
much
bother.
fun.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll do that. All right.
I'll flip it in post.
What's the matter?